I thought of a connection between second-handedness and tribalism. Being second-handed means following the leadership or ideas or opinions of other people, living by their ideas instead of your own. But you can't do that with everyone. You can't pander to everyone and please everyone. There are too many people with too many different opinions, including contradictory opinions. You can't follow everyone's ideas at the same time because there are many incompatible ideas out there. So, if you're second-handed, you have to choose who to pander to, who to follow. So, the basic way that second-handers do that is tribalism. They pick some group or groups that they have allegiance to that they identify with, and then they pander to those groups. They follow the ideas of those specific groups. Not all groups, just their tribes, their side, the people similar to them, the people they see as like themselves, the same as them. The in-group, not the out-group. Being second-handed does not get people to follow Chinese ideas and values and religions and stuff here in America, because China looks too much like the out-group. People pick some sort of American ideas to follow, cargo cult, copy, etc., not Chinese ones. There are a few people who get into like Eastern mysticism or something, but it's not very common. And then it's vice versa as well. Chinese people tend to follow Chinese ideas and follow the opinions and ideas of other Chinese people rather than of Americans or Australians or whatever else. There's certainly some admiration for America in China. There's some seeing America as having value, as impressive due to its economic achievements or its freedom or whatever. But broadly, Chinese people tend to follow Chinese stuff, Americans tend to follow American stuff. Most people are pretty tribalist and see their own country as their side. So the point is, second-handed people have to choose whose ideas or where to get the ideas that they're going to follow. If they're not following their own ideas, they have to follow some other ideas. But it can't just be everyone's or anyone's. They have to be selective. They can't follow all the ideas at once. That wouldn't work. There are too many. They can't get constantly jerked around in different directions every single time they meet a different person and to do whatever that person wants. This is perhaps where tribalism comes from, basically, is figuring out who to be second-handed for. Whoever you're being second-handed for is your tribe. Now, people are somewhat inconsistent and they make exceptions and stuff. So the biggest one is a lot of people are very conflict avoiding with anyone that they meet in person. And they do a lot of pandering to and following the opinions of anyone who acts like a leader and is there in person. When you're face to face with someone, most people are followers, is what it's called, rather than leaders. Follower means second-handed. Leader means first-handed. Not that all the leaders are first-handed, but the actual concept of leadership is supposed to mean that you have some idea of what to do, your own idea. Unfortunately, a lot of the leaders are second-handed for they're getting their idea what to lead from other stuff that's just not in the room right now. So they're following something outside the room, but they look like a leader. A lot of them are just insecure and faking it, and they've learned some superficial ways to seem like a leader and act more confident than they are, and so on. But anyways, people tend to suck up to whoever they're around. But who are they around? Mostly their tribe, their social group. They spend most of their time around their kind of people, their social circle. They do that partly on purpose. If they spend too much time around other tribes, they end up switching tribes to whoever they're spending time around. They tend to be influenced by whoever their friend group is, or whoever their peers are, whoever their colleagues at work are, etc. And people are all like, oh, I wouldn't be influenced. I have my own opinions. I'm like a rational thinker. And then whoever they work with, whoever they hang out with, whoever they're friends with, they get influenced so much and they don't realize it. It's also whatever they read. If they're reading the New York Times, they get influenced by that. If they're watching Fox News, they get influenced by that. Whatever they choose to read, it keeps influencing them and staying their tribe. And if they stop reading it or watching it, and they start getting other news sources, other information sources, then that becomes their tribe. And they will switch over quite a bit. And if they do it long enough, they'll switch over pretty entirely and just switch tribes. Because if they weren't willing to switch tribes, why would they be focusing on this other stuff? They'd keep reading, they'd like their tribe's stuff and keep engaging with it. And it's unpleasant to want to be in one tribe, but to always be around a different one. That really bothers people. So usually they just get influenced and switch. Anyway, so face-to-face interactions are the most powerful at getting people to suck up to each other, avoid conflict, pander, etc. And that's part of why people try to avoid face-to-face interactions too much with the other tribe. Or they do it in really specific contexts. If you're at a protest and you're a counter-protester, then you're setting out in advance to be hostile to the other side, and you're going there willing to yell at them or disagree with them or call them stupid or whatever. So you're already mentally prepared for that. And you know that when you flame the outgroup, even though it's face to face, that you are standing up for your tribe or whatever. But most people don't like to do that, and most outgroup flaming is done at a distance. And face to face is where it's hardest to stand up to people. And then if you just read them or watch them on TV or something, it's easier to stand up to them or mock them or criticize them or disagree with them or whatever. But it's still more influential than things that are even more distant. Like you hear rumors about like someone else watched them on TV and gives you a little bit of a summary. And that adds an extra layer of distance. Like if you've heard that there are reasonable Republicans and reasonable Christians, but you've never met one and actually had a discussion where you experienced that yourself, it's going to be a lot harder to copy that opinion or be second-handed about it than if you actually meet them and experience it and see what it's like. Direct social contact often, to some extent, overrides tribal boundaries. If people actually spend time with someone from a different tribe, they often are able to get along and to find ways to agree with each other and try to adopt each other's opinions, which is one of the reasons they're often avoiding that in the first place, so they don't get influenced by the other tribe. And then the more you keep the other tribe at a distance, the easier it is to just hate them. Anyway, the basic idea of second-handedness is instead of acting on your own ideas and living by your own ideas, you have some group or other people who you follow. So that kind of requires having a tribe. Tangentially, if you're second-handed, belief in God can be useful. You take this God concept and you personify it, and now you have a person that you can follow. Except God isn't real, God is your imaginary friend, which means that you can make up what God thinks and put your own ideas there, and it can help you stand up to other people and not follow what they want and instead do what you want. You can say, my interpretation of God says I should do X, therefore I will do X even though you disagree. So it gives you a way to be second-handed, to not be following your own personal idea, but to still do what you want. You just pretend that your idea is God's idea. That's one of the ways that people approach God, with called a personal God. And of course, a lot of religious people, in following their own concept of God, they follow church dogma. They are being second-handed with their church as their tribe. Instead of using their religion to help stand up for their ideas, they use it to suppress their ideas and just believe whatever their priest tells them to. So the versions of religion that encourage people to form their own opinions about the holy books, to do their own interpretations and study and whatever, are much better than the ones that say the holy books are beyond your understanding, just listen to your priest, listen to religious authority figures. This also applies to literal imaginary friends in childhood. One of their purposes is that they can put ideas in an externalized form. You can have your idea, but put it in the mouth of your imaginary friend. And then if you're really second-handed and have trouble acting on your own ideas, that can help you. It can also be a problem when you say that the voices in my head that you've externalized as like not counting as yourself are telling you to murder someone. Partly that's good that murdering someone seems so foreign to you that you don't want to see it as your own voice, your own thought. But on the other hand, when you put ideas into someone else telling them to you and you are second-handed, that can be powerful. Sometimes, in some ways, that can be more powerful than it being your own idea.